Huge games in college football coming up. Tomorrow night, semifinals begin, 7:30 Eastern, Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss. That's the game with the incredible storylines. 24 hours later, Oregon and Indiana in the Peach Bowl. That's the game with the incredible quarterbacks. And as we look ahead to it, we'll do a very quick fill in the blanks. Look at the squad that we've put together today. We got McElroy, we got Heather Dinich, Josh Pate, the commissioner, is up. Dusty Dvoracek has gotten up with us early this morning as well. Let's do some quickies here and then we'll have more time. Josh, let's start with Indiana. They will win on Friday night if what?
I think if they make Dan Lanning make a ton of critical fourth down decisions, Greeny, obviously that means they've forced fourth down situations. Lanning had to go for it. Well, he chose to go for it 8 times on fourth down last week. He was 4 of 8. They ended drives at the Texas Tech 25-2, 32, 46. There's no way you can do that and beat Indiana. Make them pay to find out.
All right, Heather, the other side of that game, Oregon will knock off your alma mater if they do what Friday night?
If they can continue their explosive offensive identity against this Indiana defense, because Oregon leads the country with 95 plays over 20 yards. But guess when their season low was? At home in the double-digit loss to Indiana when they only had 2.
Greg, let's go to the other game. Miami will win tomorrow night if they do what?
Well, Grady, I'm going to go with this brand new concept in football. It's trailblazing, so bear with me. Run the ball, stop the run. It's amazing. No one's ever thought that helps contribute to winning. Saturday absolutely has no idea what I'm talking about, but it's fascinating. They want to pound it with Mark Fletcher and shrink the game. They want to expose Ole Miss's lack of defensive depth, and they got to slow down Keywan Lacey, who's an amazing back. If they can slow him down, that'll really help.
You got Jeff to look up from Instagram on that one. Dusty, welcome to the program. How about Ole Miss? They win this game tomorrow night if they do what?
Greeny, this is simple. If Trinidad Chambliss is a magician, similar to the way he was in that Sugar Bowl against Georgia, as a defender, it'll drive you crazy when you do everything right, but this guy still makes you wrong. His ability to evade the rush, to make plays off schedule, the accuracy down the field from the pocket, from without the pocket, that performance we saw in the Sugar Bowl was one of the best we've seen in a long time. If he can match that, Ole Miss going to find a way to win this game.
Semifinals begin tomorrow and continue Friday.
We are counting it down to the Fiesta Bowl tomorrow night, Miami and Ole Miss. This is the game with subplots as fascinating as any you could ever possibly imagine. Let's start with the contrast in styles on the field. Okay, the U allowing fewer than 10 points per game during their 6-game win streak. On the other side, the Rebels have scored at least 30 in 8 straight games. That's the longest single-season streak in program history and the longest active streak in the country. Then, of course, there is the other storyline, and that is the absence of Lane Kiffin. By now, you're well aware of the situation. He departs for LSU. Coaches are going back and forth. Last night was media night. The quarterback of Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, talked about the specter of Kiffin and the coaches hanging over the program.
It's been a little weird at times just because, they've been back and forth, but they've handled it, great. Our coaches have been locked in and, props to them. That's kind of difficult to do, being a coach at one school, but also having obligations at another. We were kind of joking that we think that we're the only people that can, handle what's all kind of going on, because I don't think this has, ever happened in college football where, a part of your, coaching staff is kind of with another team. They've put all their focus on this game, and they haven't been affected by any distractions, and we haven't been affected by any distractions as well.
Listen, sitting as far away from this as I sit, I could not be more impressed with the way these young men have handled this situation, whether they win, lose, or draw tomorrow night. It has been remarkable. That was part of the media night for this game. Heather Dinich, you were there. What else can you tell us about what the coaches and players were saying?
Well, everyone that I've spoken to within the Ole Miss program, including players and staff members and head coach Pete Golding, have echoed what their quarterback said. That not only hasn't this been a distraction, it's galvanized them. It's brought them together. Pete Golding has downplayed it from the start. He told me, go ahead, keep making a big deal out of it and blowing it up. That'd be great. But really, the most high praise has come within the staff for their offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., who's on loan from LSU. He's been flying going back and forth. Joe Judge, one of their offensive assistants, said yesterday how Charlie Weiss Jr. has been on the plane watching film, giving feedback through, FaceTime and things like that. So they've managed to get it done, and they are saying it's not going to be a distraction.
No, it's a fascinating story one way or the other. Dusty Dvoracek, is it a factor in the game? In your mind, do you believe that the absence, the departure, the distraction, whatever you want to call it, that it plays any role in who winds up winning the game tomorrow night?
Yeah, I don't, Greeny. Look, I think this team, just like you heard there from Heather, I think they're galvanized. I think they've come together. I think it's made them closer. And I think the fact that Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to be there, going to be calling plays, going to be that voice in the head of Trinidad Chambliss, I think they're going to be just fine. Pete Golding has done a remarkable job bringing this team together. And I think now it's almost like a chip on the shoulder. Like, it doesn't matter what you throw at us. The people that are in this building that are moving forward, we've got something to prove, and they're playing excellent football moving into this game.
Pate, as the commissioner of college football, I will ask you this, the broadest question I can. This entire situation, what are the right things to say about the way it's been handled by the Ole Miss side, by the LSU side, by Lane Kiffin himself, and what the whole thing says and means for college football?
Well, what it says and means for college football is badly in need of a calendar overhaul and a structure overhaul. As for the matchup, I would say it says you make your decisions as an adult in life, and then you live with them. And then as for us, whether you talk about this sport for a living or you watch it because you love it or both, eventually you shut up about that, and then you focus on the football on the field. And if this were going to be a distraction for them, like if this were going to be detrimental for Ole Miss, Dusty's right. It would have impacted them against Georgia. So like Meemaw used to always tell us, I was scared to go to the Liberty Bell pool in Pine Mountain, Georgia when I was growing up because it was freezing cold. She said, Joshua, it's the coldest when you first jump in. If it doesn't stop you when you jump in, it's not going to stop you. You don't just keep focusing on how cold the pool is. So you would have been derailed against Georgia if this was going to work to your detriment. Now the opposite could be in play. You're harnessing it as a positive, and I guarantee those players and probably that staff will never feel more invincible than they do right now the rest of their careers.
Yeah, my Meemaw and I had a lot of similar conversations when I was growing up. Quickly, Greg, we've talked a lot about one of the quarterbacks in this game, and that's Trinidad Chambliss. How about on the other side? Carson Beck. I'm old enough to remember when we were talking about him as a high first-round draft pick. That feels like a very long time ago. What does the U have at quarterback going into this game?
Well, Greeny, the game is still there. The ability is still there. And what he's done so well this year is he's managed the game really appropriately. He's allowed his offensive coordinator to kind of be in his bag right now. And that's what I love so much about this offense. And the OC, Shannon Dawson's doing an incredible job. Short yard situation, you overload the offensive line. Look how many defenders on the right side of the center. They're thinking run all the way, but they're not thinking quarterback run. Not with Carson Beck. Well, this linebacker is. They show quarterback counter, and instead of handing it off or running it, they decide to throw a little wheel on the outside. This is 3rd and 11. This is a very important point of the game. Ohio State has made it very uncomfortable. They do a pretty decent job of coverage on the outside. They could hit the shallow, but that's beside the point. He's flush, no problem. How far do I have to go to get it? Well, he knows exactly how far it is. And for those that don't remember, Carson Beck had surgery on his right shoulder last year. He has not been at 100% for a vast majority of the season. In that play right there, 3rd and 11, got to have a situation. He put his body on the line, lowers a shoulder against an Ohio State defender, and gets the necessary yardage. He's staying within the offensive system, allowing his OC to cook.
Pate, quickly, if Miami wins this game, I watched an entire debate on this on First Take yesterday. If Miami wins this game and Ole Miss is out, what does it say about the SEC and its long-standing dominance in college football?
It's going to say a lot of things that probably extend well beyond that game, because the fact of the matter is the SEC could have performed spectacularly in bowl season. Alabama could have beaten Indiana. Georgia could still be in the thing, etc. And most people would probably expect in a head-to-head result Miami to beat Ole Miss. So in isolation, it doesn't mean anything. In totality, I think you and I could do an entire 6-hour telethon where we sit on a stage and diagnose the SEC, because there are several layers of issues there right now.
Sign me up for that. I mean, let's do it. Let's put that together. Get the Bussin' Boys involved. I'll find the venue. Let's make this thing happen. In case you hadn't heard this, our buddy Rich Eisen, just sort of speculating on his show the other day, had a very interesting idea of how they might consider filling it.
If I'm Mark Davis,
50-50.
the first person I call, and I understand this would be out of the ordinary, and I understand I might be stirring something up that doesn't exist, but I want to find out. I find out the phone number of Curt Cignetti, and I call him up, and I say, listen, I don't mean to disturb you. That's the first way I would say it.
Excuse me, sir.
But I've Googled you. I have Googled your work.
I've done this, you asked.
Google me.
I don't know if you're aware, but we hold the first overall pick in the draft.
Really?
And you've got a Heisman Doza quarterback that we're kind of interested in.
And that is a statement that I'm kind of interested in. And so again, with Greg and Heather and Dusty and Josh Pate. Heather, I'll start with you as our reporter here. Rich is not the only person I've heard voicing that. And Peter, sitting here, said earlier, the Raiders might not be the only team that could consider making a phone call in that direction. What is your sense of the future of Curt Cignetti beyond the next 2 weeks?
Well, I'll tell you what he said as an answer to that question when he signed a new 8-year, $93 million contract that goes through 2033 in October. He said he's going to retire as a Hoosier. And, you know, it's not that he can't do this. He would be a fantastic coach. He's proven that at every level. It's just not necessarily also guaranteed success or something everyone wants to do. But I think the reality of his contract is going to keep him at Indiana. Plus, the fact that he's got something special going there for sure.
Absolutely. Certainly, that contract would suggest he's not going to another college program. The NFL jump, it feels to me, would be a little different. I've never met the man in my entire life. I have no reason to believe he would or wouldn't. Dusty and Greg, just quickly from you guys, I'm sure you've been around him, know him at least a little bit. Could you see that? Could you see Curt Cignetti, who sort of feels like college, but college doesn't feel like college anymore? Dusty, could you see him making a jump to the NFL?
Look, I'm not going to bet against him in any way. I think all he's done is make everybody look like fools at every stop along the way. But he feels like a college coach to me. I'm not saying it wouldn't work in the NFL. I agree with Heather. He's got something special going on there in Bloomington. And as somebody who covers college football as closely as I do, I hope he doesn't go anywhere because he is great for college football. He's great for the Big Ten. And I want to see exactly how long and how far he can take this ride there in Bloomington.
Yeah, I agree with that part of it. Greg, quick thought?
You know, the comparable here is actually not in football. To me, it's in basketball. It's Brad Stevens, who made the transition from Butler to the NBA and one point became one of the best coaches in the NBA. I think when winning wins in college and in the NFL, and I think the lines have blurred more now than ever before. There was at one point a million years ago where if you're an NFL guy, you're better than college. Now I think NFL teams and franchises are more open to college ideas, college systems. We've seen it start to get implemented, RPOs and things of that nature, spread principles, mostly shotgun. All those things were looked down upon by NFL teams for a very long time. No longer. So I think this would be a guy that I would absolutely look into. I think Cignetti has an attention to detail that is on another level. Now, little brash, which I think might turn off some NFL players, but it would absolutely be a guy I would consider bringing up because it's worked in the past in other sports and it's worked in the past in the NFL.
And Pate, I would sort of wrap it up with this question to you. You can name Cignetti if you want to. If you were an NFL team and you were looking at the college ranks to hire your next coach, which one would you want?
Yeah, it'd be him. Look, I've always thought guys like Kirby Smart, I don't want to start anything in my home state, but I've always thought guys who have a very, very rigid, intense adherence to structure, to process, to being detail-oriented, as Greg just said with Curt Cignetti. Those are the guys that would work in the NFL. The benefit you get with Cignetti, and let me pause, I need Heather Dinich to be right. I need there to be zero chance of this happening. But strictly in terms of hypotheticals, you get the added benefit where Cignetti hasn't been one of these college guys that had all the advantages and edges and resource in the world and loaded up a roster full of 5 stars. You've seen him do it with lesser or at the very best equal talent edges in college football, which just makes you all the more certain his way would work in the NFL. Again, hypothetical. We don't need this happening. Absolutely don't need this.
Okay, the college coaches, let's let them stay where they are. And again, Heather, the Hoosier, perhaps feels that way a little bit as well. Look at these two games. I'll give you a big number, and then I'll ask a big question. We start with the Big Ten showdown, Oregon and Indiana. You're looking for a reason to think that Oregon might win? Here's one. It's a rematch of a regular season game. It is the 6th regular season rematch we've had in the 12-year history of the playoff. The loser in the regular season has wound up winning the rematch 4 out of 5 times. So history says it favors Oregon at least a little bit. Heather, your thoughts here as what are the things that people should be thinking about in this rematch between Oregon and Indiana?
Well, I go back to the discipline of Curt Cignetti and the preparation, and I just don't think that that's going to be a factor. When I look at these teams, I think they're the 2 most complete teams left in the country, and honestly, I'm kind of disappointed this isn't the national championship game because I think it should be, but I think Indiana can do this again, honestly.
Josh, you gave us a recipe for disaster for Oregon tomorrow night. What is it?
I just think a repeat on 3rd and even 4th down to what we saw against Texas Tech, but Greeny, even to what we saw with Oregon playing Indiana the first time around, would be disaster again.
Do win the game, and you'll be watching Dante Moore again. It's the matchup of the 2 quarterbacks. Does Dante Moore feels to me like he's the kind of guy who might have one of these miracle games we talk about forever, wins a game we don't expect to see coming, and all of a sudden vaults him into a different conversation in the NFL? What does he need to do for that to happen?
Well, I think he's capable, first and foremost, Greeny, and we're going recency bias. It was not a good showing against Texas Tech. It was an average day at best. But on his best day, he can go with anybody, and this will require his best day. It's going to require him to throw receivers open. It's going to require him to anticipate throws, get the ball out of his hands quickly, be able to move and buy time in the pocket while keeping his eyes downfield. When you are trying to move the ball against Indiana, it requires precision. Next level precision and next level understanding of where to attack that defense and where that defense's vulnerabilities are. He's going to have to play his best game. And if he does, Greeny, not only will Oregon advance to the national championship, but the gap that currently exists between him and Fernando Mendoza when it comes to the NFL draft, it could potentially shrink.
Cindy, you can put the picks up on the screen. There they are. I'm going Oregon because no one else is. Dusty, final word. How do you see the game?
Look, I like Indiana in this game. I think Indiana executes better than anybody in college football. They don't make mistakes, and that's the discipline that you've heard talked about. One of the fewest penalized teams in the country, number 1 in the country in turnover margin. We talked about Curt Cignetti and how great he is. His team mirrors that. I don't see any flaws. They run it well. They got the Heisman Trophy winner, and there's no defense playing collectively better than the Hoosiers. It's going to be tough for Oregon to knock them off a second time.
So that's the Friday night game. Let me give you the big number for the tomorrow night game here quickly. Tables have flipped for Miami. They've been the underdog on their run here, but now they're a 3.5-point favorite over Ole Miss. That, of course, didn't stop the Rebels in their last game. They were 6-point underdogs against Georgia. We'll do this one quickly. Josh, why do you view this game as a battle of attrition?
Well, you would think I'm talking about Miami there with leaning on Ole Miss and leaning on Ole Miss and grinding them into a 4th quarter submission type situation. And they could do that. That's easily the blueprint here. Miami probably has a 2-way edge on the line of scrimmage. The only thing that gives me concern is the trap door that may be built under this game, because I'm picking Miami to win the game, and yet I'm thinking to myself, what if it's just Trinidad Chambliss running all over the place and they can't contain him, they can't really set any edge on him, and by late 3rd quarter, early 4th quarter, I'm watching it. Maybe even with Miami still narrowly leading and saying, wow, those defensive front guys are gassed. Because that's a recipe for Trinidad Chambliss to go full circus mode on you on 3rd down, on 4th down in the 4th quarter and end up winning the game same way they did against Georgia.
Yeah, Greg, you think Miami is likely to win a game that's played in that style?
Yeah, I'm going Miami in this situation. I think they're the more physical football team. It's no disrespect to Ole Miss, who I think is more physical than people realize. But I look at this and I think it's going to be a grinded out style of affair, because you just referenced, and Josh said it as well, you cannot stop Trinidad Chambliss for 4 quarters. It's not going to happen, but you know what can? You can keep him on the sideline. And that's exactly how I think Miami will approach this. Every single time they decide to throw it, it's purely to talk the defense out of selling out against the run. I think they run it 50 times in this game en route to what should be a low-scoring victory.
Put the picks up there on the screen. Dusty, how do you say? Again, I'm going Ole Miss because no one else is. Whenever everyone thinks something's going to happen, it never does. Dusty, your thoughts?
Look, Granny, I'm a nose tackle. Take me to the line of scrimmage. And Greg is right. Look, I give advantages in Miami on both the offensive and defensive line. And one guy we're not talking enough about is Carson Beck. Guys, this will be his 41st start. He's 35-5 overall. He's got 15 wins over ranked opponents. He played excellent the last 6 games after the SMU loss. He's made great decisions. He's only got 1 turnover in that time. I think the line of scrimmage wins, but I think Carson Beck makes timely plays when he has to. It'll be competitive, but give me the Hurricanes to win this one.
Heather, final word.
Well, to say what Dusty said, remember, there is some familiarity between Carson Beck and some of these Ole Miss defenders. They remember him from when he was at Georgia, like their junior linebacker, TJ Daugherty. And Carson Beck remembers some of the guys on this defense. They know that they have to get him to make throws on the run. They know they have to get pressure on him, make him uncomfortable. And he knows a little bit about what to expect from these guys. So that familiarity is an intangible in this game.
These games are phenomenal. The storyline's phenomenal. You guys phenomenal this morning. Thanks for getting up again. One more time, the semis are on the way tomorrow. Miami and Ole Miss. Friday, Oregon, Indiana. Coverage of both games, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app.
You want this, you got that. No way, watch them walk right by